Everything's great. How are you? Whereabout are you? I like your painting in the background.
Oh, thank you. If you want to send me your address, I'd love to send you that sticker.
Ooh, I will do that later. I want
Yeah,
that sticker.
absolutely. Where are you located?
I'm in London, so it's early afternoon. What is it? No, mid-afternoon already. Where has this day gone? It's 2:30 in the
Okay.
UK.
All right. Well, I love the future, so we're in the right place because we're just starting out. We're at 8:30 in the morning here in Kansas City, Missouri.
Ah, nice, Missouri. Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, yeah, it's so good, being a part of this community to run into musicians because my bread and butter is jazz radio. So,
Uh-huh.
yeah, it's great for us to hook up here. So, thank you for taking a minute out. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's beautiful to be here.
So, you have a wonderful story that geographically speaking and just like as far as what you do for people. But I want to begin everything with COVID. The last 3 years was quite an ordeal for all of us. How did you survive it, and how did it change you now that we're kind of in this post-pandemic era of our lives?
COVID. What is COVID?
Yeah, right. I wish. I really wish that.
What are you talking, man? I have no idea what you're
What's
talking
this
about.
thing?
Let me reflect on that. COVID for me actually was a very positive time, I have to say. I guess it comes from being a self-employed musician, being self-employed. Basically, you never know what's around the corner, and I was very well prepared for this because I just switched things, and it makes you very adaptable if you do that. And it was a time where I actually quite thrived, just adjusting my normal methods of operation and changing things around. But like, I haven't thought about this for a very long time, so it's an interesting question.
Yeah.
Now, this being gone after like 3 years ago, this everything happened. I think one of the main things I really thought what was happening was, you remember at the very beginning when there was this collective spirit of helping each other out. Okay, there's this big mind shift happening, and we have this collective experience. It's not a single person experiencing something crazy, but the whole humanity was experiencing that.
Hmm.
And I love that spirit in the beginning, but now it's all gone and everything is back to normal. Everyone is crazy again. We're having all this noise shouting at us on the phones all the time,
Yeah.
and probably I missed that, uh, aside of all the misery and all the crazy things that happened, and lots of people lost their lives or lost their loved ones. Obviously, that's always horrible. But that collective reset felt amazing, and I kind of missed that a bit. But it is what it is. We got to
Yeah.
keep on rolling.
I hadn't even thought about it that way because that's interesting. I remember there was TV specials and everybody was coming together, but that's kind of what happened after 9/11. And it, strangely enough, after I was in London on 9/11, I went backpacking in Europe. I landed in Paris on
Touchy.
the 4th of September, and I had a flight leaving the 10th, I believe, and it didn't
Mhm.
exist anymore. So I had to find a way home, and I ended up flying out of Gatwick. And I remember
Oh my
during
God. Yeah,
that
that's
time,
quite close to me here.
yeah, okay, all right. But I remember that
Yeah.
time going under the English Channel to get there, and I was drinking gin and tonics. And from America, we drive on the other side of the road. So this guy was driving on the wrong side, and I was just like, "What are you doing? What? You're gonna kill us!" So anyway, it was quite an interesting time. But I will tell you that the locals in London were so good, so kind, so inquisitive as to what was going on at the time. So it was the right
Yeah.
place in the world to be.
That crazy. Yeah, I can imagine that was quite a similar vibe. Okay, there's a before and there's an after.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's get to the essence of what you do for a living. I want to put you in front of a bunch of third graders at a career day, and one of the kids looks up and says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer that child?
I will say, little Stevie, that's a great question. Sometimes I ask myself that question, but I'm a musician, and as a musician, you do many different things if you want to make a living from being a musician. So you gotta spread your wings wide and far. I play music, I write music, I perform live, sometimes in front of people. I always had a strong focus on education. That was like, because it's the most sustainable part of my career as a musician, but I always loved it as well. So I teach people how to play instruments. And that's it. I'm surrounded by music every
Yeah.
day. I meet loads of people. I meet loads of interesting people. I meet people from all walks of life. And it's the best career in the world for me.
So, since when you were in the third grade, did you always want to be a musician when you grew up?
Third grade in Austria, we have a different system. How old is that? 10 years or something like this?
Probably about 10 years old.
Yeah, I never did anything else actually. I always loved performing, and it was always the thing that made most sense to me. Like nothing else, just does, other than art and music, nothing
Yeah.
makes sense to me. For
Okay.
me to live my life.
So talk to me about growing up in Austria and how you got into music. How did this kind of turn into where you are in London today? What was kind of a timeline?
I grew up in a small town in the mountains, in the province of Tyrol, that's in the west of the country. You may know Innsbruck, they had some Olympic Games there. So some people know it because of that. And I grew up there marching away. Actually, I was really marching away. I grew up, and my sister and my brother, they are also very musical, and so we were part of marching bands. That's a big thing there. It's very Catholic, very religious, and through all the religious occasions or when anything was happening in the town, always the marching band was there at the center of attention. And my first job actually there's always one little kid in town that has to pull the bass drum for the bass drum player. And I remember that I was just pulling this drum, and it was noisy, it was wild, it was just really fun, and I loved that there's loads of things going on. It's doing music together with people. And then I started to play the clarinet. I started to study classical clarinet, to have a classical background. At the same time, I got into bands and playing guitars and rock pop music. And then what happened then? I lived in Los Angeles actually. I moved to Los Angeles for some time because in Austria we still have military service, which is mandatory. And you either can join the military or you have to do some kind of social service. Lots of people work in an old people's home. But there's also one option where you go abroad, and I worked in the Museum of Tolerance in Los Angeles. It's a big, it's connected to a Holocaust museum, and I was giving tours to kids, talking about the power of words, talking about history, and this kind of stuff. Because I always wanted to go to LA, but it's a crazy place, and maybe I was too young. And, then I thought, okay, LA, see you later. I liked you, but I need to go back to Europe. And I went back to Austria, and then thought, okay, I want to go to a bigger place, and then applied to some schools. And in London, I got a place to study classical composition. And suddenly 15 years are gone by. What happened, man? What happened?
Yeah.
And I'm still here in London, doing lots of different things. So I did my master's in composition. Took me years to forget that experience. When you get too deep into something, it loses all its magic, and you think, "Oh, this amazing musician has done this. This amazing musician has done this," and I sort of it took me years to just get back my curiosity and just have fun again with music. If you understand what I mean?
Yeah, that's amazing. What was the first live show you saw that blew you away?
um, all great questions, man. You always getting me. What's the word? Off chart. Is that a thing?
What's that?
You getting me with your questions. I don't
Oh,
expect them. I like that.
yeah, yeah, good, good.
Let me think. It was probably Kiss, like we had in my little hometown.
Wow.
In Austria. It's a 12,000 people town, and there was always one good, really amazing culture organization. They brought big bands in, and there was Kiss. I remember there were big protests, people on the street. Okay, Satan is coming to town. They can't play here, and I loved that. And all my friends, we were just going there. And I remember when they started playing, they had uh, extra guitar players. So they had just the band. What is his name? Paul Stanley is the name, right? Of the guitar player, and they had two understudies like rocking out with them, and I thought that was so amazing, and I felt the vibrations in my body, and I thought, whoa, this is just amazing. And I thought, okay, yeah, I want to do that.
You know, it's funny. The very first show that I remember was Kiss myself when they came to
Ah,
Kansas
really?
City. And it was when they did the Animalize, which was without makeup, which was
Ah, okay.
strange. So,
Mm-hmm.
but when I was
Uh-huh.
a kid, they used to sell the trading cards. And there
Uh-huh.
was that thing too where people were like, oh, it's evil if you get them. Because I remember Gene Simmons, his card had all the blood coming out of his mouth. And
Yeah,
it was like, that freaked me out when I was a kid.
yeah, yeah. It was just the big cinematic experience, and I mean, Americans are amazing and at putting on an amazing show. And I, as a little kid in this town, I thought, okay, wow, this is
Oh,
just
yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. So, who's been kind of a hero for you in your life?
A hero in my life. I had a personal hero of mine was my first clarinet teacher. When I was studying at the conservatory, he was just a really, really cool dude. And I had a bit of hard time in my life back then. And he just picked me up. And I think because of him, I'm doing what I was doing when I was 13, 14. Um, yeah, he was just a really cool dude, opening up the world of music to me. And I learned so many things just hanging out with him. And yeah, like that's the first hero
Yeah.
that comes into my mind. I had many other heroes, but he was one of my first heroes, I would say.
So, let me ask you this. If you could see any live music show today, what would be a dream show for you to catch live?
Maybe Miles Davis doing hip hop.
Yeah, that was at the very end. Yeah, he went through a lot of mutations.
Yeah, uh-huh. Or maybe the Beatles when they started out, or some of this early 60s crazy stuff. Beach Boys, when they weren't famous. Maybe the 10th gig of the Beach Boys or something like this could also be cool.
Yeah. You know, there's a band called Rain, and it came through
Uh-huh.
Kansas City. It was a Beatles cover band, and that was amazing. They did like all the incarnations from like the early to the late. It was fully theatrical, and that was
Uh-huh.
really cool. So yeah, 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 yeah. There's a chance to see that actually happen.
Yeah, or maybe the Mothers of Invention in '69 or something like this. That would
Yeah,
be a fun show to see.
yeah, that
I mean,
would
they're
be.
all gone, all not gonna happen. Or but this kind of '60s, '70s bands there. It was just an exciting time. There was no bloody internet. It
Yeah,
was less noisy.
yep,
The
absolutely.
internet is nice. Otherwise, we wouldn't meet right now.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Hail to
Yeah,
the internet.
it's a double-edged sword for
It
sure.
is, yeah, it is.
So let me ask you this. What is your motivation every day to get up and to do what you do, to be a musician, to teach others? What is that motivation for you?
I love showing people that creativity and the arts. music, music is just my art form that I chose, can be any art form, is the best way of trying to deal with the human condition, trying to make sense of this all, because it's weird, it's strange, things happen, life can be really hard. But I always love when, especially people who don't engage in the arts or who don't engage in music, when I can open up their curiosity and create an environment where they just be themselves and find out about themselves through the power of music. And I just love making up stuff and being curious and um, pressing buttons, turning knobs. I just love it.
So what's your best success story, your best teaching success story that always puts a smile on your face?
I worked in a prison for a couple of years where I was teaching music production to young offenders. And it was one of the most amazing times where I rediscovered actually the power of music, the transformative power of music. Because when I went in there, I'm obviously from a very different background than someone who grew up in a council estate in London, who had violence and drugs since in their childhood when they were growing up. And then I go in there, I have a funny accent. They think, okay, who is this bloke? But then we sit down and we instantly can talk music. And it was just it's still inspiring when you think about working with a couple of those guys. It was a really hard job. It's we could do our own podcast just on that. But um, working with those guys and thinking, okay, maybe I'm the first guy in their life who tells them, pats them on the shoulder and tells them, hey, you're really good at this.
Yeah.
And seeing the smile in their face. And yeah, I love
That's
that.
wonderful. So what is it that you've done in your life up to this point that you're the proudest of?
Let me think. I'm proud that I'm making a living. I'm being a musician. I'm every morning when I get up, and I love getting up, and I'm really looking forward for what lays ahead, and that I build up my career that works. I can live from it. I'm my own boss. I'm running my own rules, and I'm just grateful that I'm able to do that.
Yeah, for sure. So if you were to have a dream tonight, you ran into the younger version of yourself, say your 20-year-old version, and you could give that version of you a piece of advice based on what you've learned so far, your wisdom that you've gained, what would you tell that young version of you?
I would tell him always keep going, don't worry so much, and always live by your core values. This is the most important thing. And this thing that you have with music, protect it as much as you can from everything. It's like a little baby, and you gotta nurse that baby. And it's the most important thing to keep that alive and not letting go of that.
Yeah, for sure. So let me ask you this. Music is all about evolution. We clearly talked about the Beatles and where we've led to today. What bands do you really enjoy today? Who are you really impressed by today?
I love Animal Collective.
Yeah.
Do you know them?
Uh-huh.
I keep rediscovering their music. Um, Friends that I work with, my local musicians, they inspire me. I mean, I always go through phases where I listen to a lot of music, and when I'm creating on my own, I don't listen to anything. I more get inspiration from chatting to strangers, meeting people, going on a mountain, doing long hikes and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, going back to your question, Animal Collective, um, I still go back to 60s, 70s psychedelic stuff that I like. I would need to think a bit longer about
Yeah,
that,
no,
but
you're
it's
fine.
good. Yeah.
No, Animal Collective is a good one. So let me ask you this. Everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, fans, your students, but you are in control of your life. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Love it, man. Uh, I'm a curious spirit who likes to connect with people. Sometimes I go down rabbit holes, which I probably shouldn't. I sometimes worry too much about whatever. But I'm a colorful spirit that tries to leave an impact in this short time that I'm here on the planet, and I'm trying my best to do that.
Right on. Hey, Vinny, if anyone wants to hire you, get your music, anything about your world, where can they go?
You can go to my website, which is stergin.com, stergin.com, or you find me on Instagram, which is Stergin Music, or if you Google Stergin, you know the buttons you need to press. I'm on most of the platforms. You will find me if you want to find me.
Excellent. Man, I love your spirit. Vinny, thank you for opening up today. Thank you for taking some time out for me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, me too. It was lovely. Thanks,
Yeah.
Joe.
So send me your address and I will get you over a sticker. So
Yes, also.
right on.
I had so many interviews.
Yeah.
But I loved it. You've got a really nice spirit, man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. It's a labor of love. And I love you musicians. Just making everybody just a little bit happier on the planet. So thank you.
Yeah, you're right. Hey, have a lovely day, man. Take it easy.
Cheers.
Ciao, ciao.